This is the new Zhiyun Crane 4, a gimbal that gets back to the basics for this brand, which in my opinion is a really good thing. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing this gimbal from the perspective of a wedding filmmaker and telling you if it's a good gimbal for you to purchase if you film weddings or documentaries or anything else where you need a reliable camera stabilizer that you can run around with all day. Before I get started though, for the sake of ethics, I want you to know this video is not paid or sponsored by Zhiyun, but they did send me this gimbal early so I could make this review. Well, here's where we are in the world of Zhiyun's gimbals. Their cinematic universe. Gimbal-matic universe? Yes, Gimbal-matic universe, as it were. Zhiyun set the world on fire with their first gimbal, the Crane. That thing was extremely lightweight and compact, but could still hold a mirrorless camera and lens, and it was pretty darn cool. Unfortunately, I was someone that filmed with a heavier camera setup with a battery grip, so I could not partake in using that gimbal, but thankfully the Crane 2 soon followed, and that gimbal had a significantly higher payload. I still love that gimbal to this day. Here's where we take a turn for the worse though, and enter what I like to call the dark ages of Zhiyun's gimbals. Over the last few years, we've seen gimbals like the Crane 3, Crane 3S, Crane 2S, and Weeble 2, all of which I've either had experience with or have reviewed, and if I had to choose the common theme between all these gimbals, it would be that they have an issue with weight. In short, they are heavy, especially compared to their competition. And if you are someone like me that films weddings and prioritizes having a super lightweight gimbal that you can use all day, a heavy gimbal is a recipe for backaches after 12 hours of filmmaking. Thankfully, there is some light at the end of the tunnel because Zhiyun essentially realized that a lot of their gimbals were heavy and they began moving in the direction of lightness, which should make you incredibly happy as a filmmaker. I know it makes me happy. Enter the Crane 4, which comes in at a relatively light 1,673 grams, much lighter than the Crane 3S, which weighed 2,472 grams, or even the Crane 2S, which weighed 1,877 grams. In addition, from an ergonomic standpoint, this feels like one of the most versatile gimbals that Zhiyun has made to date. They got stuck on this thing with the Crane 3 and 3S, where they really wanted you to be able to use the gimbal in underslung mode, so the gimbal added a ton of weight and mass to enable you to do that whenever you want it. Thankfully, with the Crane 4, underslung mode is now merely an option, where you can attach a back handle to the gimbal and use it this way, while also being able to remove this back handle if you want the gimbal to be even lighter. Talking more ergonomics, Zhiyun introduced a wrist rest in their latest Weeble model, and I'm so glad to see it here as well. It may sound a bit gimmicky to have a wrist rest, but if you're holding a heavy gimbal, the majority of the weight from that gimbal is going to be resting on your wrist. This wrist rest actually makes a lot of sense on a larger gimbal because the odds are that you're going to be using heavier cameras and lenses with it. It should make filming long wedding days even easier for you, and as a plus, it's also removable if you don't want to use it. Of course, that said, as an alternative to a wrist rest, I wouldn't have minded if Zhiyun had opted to use some lighter materials like carbon fiber to make this gimbal lighter. That also might have negated a need for a wrist rest as well, and is one of the reasons why DJI is doing so well with many of their gimbals, because they're choosing to make them as light as possible. Anyways, one of the other fancy new features of this gimbal is the addition of balance lights. You can put your camera on the gimbal, and whenever you're balancing it, you'll see lights on the motors that shine red if it needs to be adjusted. Personally, I'm someone that usually sticks to one camera and lens combo when filming, so these lights will be useful for the initial balance that I do, but then I'm not really going to need them anymore. But if you are someone that commonly finds yourself swapping lenses all the time when using your gimbal and rebalancing it, I can see these lights being very useful at a glance. There is one other light on this gimbal that we need to talk about though, and that is this rather large LED light that Zhiyun included on the front arm. Zhiyun has been experimenting with this with other gimbals, and it's back again on the Crane 4, where they include what is essentially a bicolor LED light on the front of the gimbal to help you light up whatever you're filming. It even comes with this cute little squishy rubber dome that you can put over the light to soften it further. Personally, I have zero use for this because I find that the light is going to be too close to the camera, which is going to result in something equivalent to early MTV, where you have a light shining directly on your talent's face. And if you're filming weddings, for example, anytime you put a light on your camera, that's going to be super distracting to anyone that you're filming, and they're going to be drawn to your camera like moths to a flame. And at that point, it's really hard to get people to act natural. People get weird when there's a light on your camera, and even by moving the light a few inches off your camera onto the gimbal arm, it's still going to be weird and people aren't going to like it. That said, if you're someone that films this way with a light on people's faces, I think you'll like it. But it feels kind of like a gimmick to me, and personally, I wouldn't have minded if the gimbal was lighter instead of adding this feature. Otherwise, as far as new features go, Zhiyun says this gimbal now offers you more control if you connect your camera to your gimbal. You can do things like change the shutter speed and white balance and start and stop recording. Essentially, they're trying to make it even easier for you to adjust the settings without you needing to touch your camera once it is balanced on the gimbal. If you're someone that puts your camera on a gimbal and leaves it there all day, I think you're going to love this feature. But if you're someone like me that constantly finds yourself putting your camera on your gimbal, then taking it off because you want to film handheld, any extra wires or connections to the gimbal are just going to get in the way. This is why I don't typically find myself using any of these features, but at the same time, I don't want to discount them if you want to use them. So just know that these are possible, and I tested them and they work. Now, with the new features out of the way, I do feel like we have to answer a rather basic question in this review, and that is this a good gimbal? As in, is it good at doing gimbal things like stabilizing your camera? And the answer is yes. It is excellent at that, just like every other Zhiyun gimbal that I've ever used. The Crane 4 is going to give you smooth footage either in a horizontal or a vertical orientation because it does support both of those. It also gives you all the normal controls and features you expect from a gimbal, so you get follow mode and pan tilt mode and POV mode, etc. Battery life is also quite good as well. Zhiyun says the Crane 4 has a 12-hour battery life, and in my testing, I believe that's pretty accurate, and I wouldn't expect you to have any issues getting through a full wedding day. Keep in mind that unlike Zhiyun's previous gimbals though, this one does not have interchangeable batteries, so you will have to charge it before using it. You can't swap out the handle to get new batteries or anything like that. What you see is what you get here. That said, Zhiyun says the Crane 4 can recharge in 1 hour and 50 minutes. Now, before we talk price for this gimbal, I have one last complaint, and this is minor, but it's annoying for me specifically. And the reason that it's annoying for me specifically is that I am someone that is left-handed. I know I'm an extreme minority on the earth, but I really appreciate whenever things are built in a way that left-handed people can still use them. And to be clear, I'm not saying that the Crane 4 is unusable for left-handed people, but if you look at the controls and the orientation, this entire gimbal is essentially built for someone that's right-handed. If you hold it in your right hand, you have extremely easy access to the record button, the joystick, it's all right here ready for your thumb to press it. Now, on the other hand, literally, if you are left-handed, other than this button and dial at the front of the gimbal, you're gonna have to do a really awkward reach move to get to this joystick and try to not drop the gimbal. It's a big pain. I wouldn't recommend it. Thankfully, the wrist rest is swappable to the left side of the gimbal, which is how I have it now, but the detachable underslung gimbal arm on the other way had to be put on at a bit weirder of an angle because the mounting point for it doesn't rotate 180 degrees. So this is a weird issue, but if you are left-handed like me, I would probably avoid this gimbal and instead look for one that has all the controls centered on the back so you can access them more easily. Anyways, talking price now. This is where things get really interesting because Zhiyun has priced this gimbal at $669 for just the gimbal and tripod base and $749 for a combo which comes with the sling handle and the wrist rest. On the surface, this pricing looks pretty comparable to a company like DJI. What you need to remember, though, is that Zhiyun is typically incredibly aggressive when it comes to putting their gimbals on sale and reducing their prices, so I would definitely keep an eye out for a sale. So, should you buy it? Well, I think the Crane 4 is interesting. It's great to see Zhiyun embracing lighter weight gimbals again, as well as making things like this wrist rest and underslung arm removable if you don't want to use them. But that said, I also feel like they've crammed some features into this gimbal that aren't exactly necessary, like the LED light on the front, for example, and the balance lights that you may only use once if you use the same camera and lens combo every time that you use the gimbal. That said, if you're looking for a gimbal that can handle heavier weighted cameras like a C70 or an FX6, etc., or you find yourself constantly struggling with balancing your gimbal every time that you use it, I think that the Crane 4 will serve you really well, especially if you can find it for a good price. Just watch out if you're left-handed because the controls are going to be really, really awkward for you. Speaking of awkward, if you don't want your colors to be awkward in your videos and if you want cool colors, instead you need to check out my color presets, Who is Matt Lutz. These are going to make the colors in your videos look amazing, and I will link to them down below. Oh, and while I am thinking about it, I will also link down below to a review of a more left-handed friendly gimbal that I made if you want to check out that too. Lastly, if you're a wedding filmmaker like me, I'm sure you want to book more couples and film more weddings, and I would love to give you some tips for how to do that on YouTube. I've put together a free guide called YouTube Tips for Wedding Filmmakers, and this guide is going to walk you through some of the most important things that I've learned that will help you get more views, likes, and bookings for your wedding films on YouTube. This guide is completely free, and you can download it, the link down below. Thanks so much for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more, and have a great day.